come with me to MomoCon. So this is my second year going to MomoCon and my first year as just a normal attendee, and I was super excited to really get to experience the convention. I decided to apply for the costume contest right before the applications closed, and then had to con crunch harder than I've ever con crunched before to prepare my costume for a competition. I did make this costume at the end of last year and it needed some sprucing up to be ready for the stage. So I spent the last month designing, modeling, 3D printing, priming and painting, and gold leafing a brand new crown, completely remade the silver skirt, and I spent about 3 of those weeks hand beading the bottom of the corset because I wanted it to sparkle more. So with all of that effort, I was finally ready to pack everything up and head out on the 6-hour drive to Atlanta. Off to MomoCon, and we're only leaving an hour late, and it's going to take like 7 hours to get there. So I'm hoping to make it there in time to check into the hotel, change, and make it to the mixer they're having for the contest judges and contestants. So we'll see if we make it in time. And let me tell you, my experience was not super great at first. Only did the Hilton Signia cancel our room on Thursday. Fortunately, they did move us to the Hilton downtown, but that was much farther away than the Signia itself. But we got caught up in a pretty bad traffic jam, so I only caught the last 10 minutes or so of the cosplay competition mixer, which is something I really wanted to attend. I had no idea what that was actually going to be like, and it wound up being a panel for the contestants to meet each other and ask the judges questions. And from what I've heard, it was a really good panel. So Thursday for us was pretty much a bust. We didn't do anything else for the convention. We walked around the DragonCon hotels and got to see them empty for probably the first time. Had a nice dinner and just went to bed because unfortunately on Friday we had to migrate hotels, losing out on the first few hours of the convention on Friday. We were able to check in early for a fee and get everything in the room and get dressed. I decided to go as Barbie without my wig because that was just too much effort for how exhausted I was feeling, and we went to the convention. We just typically spend our first few hours at the convention wandering around the layout and just trying to see what it is that we want to do for the rest of the time. So we walked to the convention hall, explored the gaming area, walked through the arcade, and really we spent a ton of time in the vendor hall. I think we went up and down every aisle. I ran into one of my all-time favorite cosplayers, Foxy, and got to give her a hug. I was so excited to see her in person, and then continued to look at the other guests and just figure out our Friday. For me, fortunately, Friday was incredibly low-key until the evening when I got to teach my Working with Warbler panel. It was such an amazing panel. I had such great attendees who were very excited to learn, and I was super happy to be able to walk them through the very basics of learning how to work with Warbler. I am going to be applying to teach this workshop next year as well. Typically in this class, we start off with making a very simplistic pattern for a bracer and then cutting it out of foam and working with the Warbler to actually shape the bracer. We often run out of time for actually adding the decorations onto it. So I think next year I'm going to apply to do this workshop again, but this time I really want to make a dagger. The dagger, I can go ahead and pre-print out the patterns that I'll create so that we don't have to worry about that. I can walk everyone through cutting out the foam, prepping the foam, wrapping it in Warbler, and so on and so forth. So hopefully that workshop will get accepted next year as well, because I am very excited to make Warbler daggers with everyone. After my workshop, I still wasn't feeling great, so we decided to go ahead and grab some dinner and head back to the room so that I could prepare my costume for the next day. Prejudging for me was at 2:30 and the competition was at 8:30, and I realized early on that that was a terrible idea. Normally I take the latest slot possible for prejudging because the contest is typically only a couple of hours after that, but at MomoCon the contest was super late. So all in all, I wound up being in costume for nearly 10 hours, which in this particular costume, with my back not having too much mobility because of the front plates and the wig being a little heavy, it's not super comfortable. Maybe next time do an early morning slot so I can get undressed and relax a little bit before the competition. But I got my makeup on, I got dressed, and we headed down to prejudging. When we got there, they assigned me a number and I went and sat in the prejudging waiting area until they called my number, and then I got in line behind an amazing cosplayer that made this really cool villain from one of the Barbie movies. I'm not super familiar with them and I feel really bad. It was so beautiful. I was so excited to be able to see that one up close. And then it was my turn and I walked in, and the judges' reactions through me walking through the door was just so exciting. I'm always a little nervous before prejudging, but the looks on their faces and then how excited they were to talk to me about the corset and the Warbler work that I did really made me feel relaxed. They were excellent judges. Of course, the 3 minutes is not enough time. That was finished quite quickly, and we left to go get a really cool 360 view of my costume from the vendor hall, and then I sat in the room for a while until it was time to head over to the contest. I was an hour and a half early for the contest. I actually talked to quite a few people in line who are absolutely amazing, till I just felt so incredibly tired and hot. I just needed to sit down, and I pretty much just stared off into space for the rest of the time until I was able to get on stage and do my poor impression of a villain walk. I tried, but I'm a Disney princess at heart. And then we waited.
We have Iron Cosplay as Shadowheart from Baldur's Gate 3.
I got to talk to this cosplayer quite a bit in line backstage. She is so incredibly sweet, and let me tell you how incredibly talented she is. She is a novice. This is her second competition only, and look at the fit of that bodysuit. She did such a good job. I saw this Sailor Moon cosplay in one of my Sailor Moon Facebook groups before I got to see it in person. This was so incredible. Those stained glass windows are made from vinyl and tissue paper. It is such an incredible technique. And this is who I got to stand in line next to right before prejudging. The fit and tailoring on this cosplay is so good. She actually took home the Director's Award, but I honestly thought she was going to take home the Master Sewing Award. It was so well done. And this is who I was standing next to right before walking the stage. This costume looks like it could have stepped out of the movie. Every little detail was perfect. It was so incredibly well done. We got best prop for that sphere.
Next up, we have Silwyn Cosplay as Ravina from Snow White and the Huntsman. Oh, yes. Do not look in the mirror, y'all. Do not.
Chat with this cosplayer backstage as well. I was so in love with her armor. It was incredibly well done. And then to my surprise, given the fact that I never thought I would win anything with Ravenna, she was not made to be a competition piece. They announced my name.
Next up, we have the Sewing Master. And now that I know who it is, yes, Queen. We have the Queen herself, Diana Brazel, as Ravana from Snow White and the Huntsman.
Kind of. He tried.
Honestly, y'all, like, flawless. Like, every little detail, the stitching, the attention to all of the little intricacies, the way she did her seams, even the way, we're not fabrication, but the warbler on the front was freaking incredible. Like, seeing this up close was an absolute treat.
We actually we fought over who would get best sewing, but then when you think, I just thought back to those tabs on those stays that are fully covered in beads and all of those bones.
She has 114 boning channels in that corset.
Coming down backstage felt like a runway. Everyone was applauding all the way down the ramp. And with that, it was time to grab some dinner and go to bed. Sunday was pretty low-key. We were driving home that day. I finally got a quick video in front of this beautiful Sailor Moon backdrop that they have, and then walked around the vendor hall a little bit more, played some of my favorite arcade games, fell in love with model making, and headed out just before lunch. So that was my MomoCon 2025. Were you there? I would love to hear your experiences. Make sure to put them down in the comments below. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe for more content from me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!